I've been an educator for about, post-secondary educator for about 25 years. In about 10 years ago, I hit my low point. And I was a counselor, and 3 complaints about me made it all the way up to the president's office. Complaints about how bad I was in a 3-month period. I felt disconnected. I was angry. I was frustrated. And I started to beat myself up. I said, you know, I was in my mid-40s and I questioned everything that I had done to that point. I thought had prepared me to be this college counselor. Everything that I had worked for, and the 9 majors I had in college, and the 6 different careers that I had been through, I thought I finally found it, and I doubted it all. And in that time, in that dark night of the soul, I started really questioning, who am I? You know, what was my message? What was I supposed to be giving, or how is this not working? Well, you know how, as processes go, I was called in. You know, the supervisor and my supervisor was there. And I was being reprimanded, I guess you could use the word. And I remember sitting there, and I knew I was gonna get it. I pissed people off, so that normally when somebody's angry, it's stopped there. You know, somebody deals with it, but these people were so angry. In the middle of the meeting, I had a revelation. It was like an aha moment. It was almost like a comedy. I started laughing, and I realized that I was not living my true life, that I was not being who I was, that the situation that I was in was not real. I was being asked to do something in a way that I knew wasn't working for me or the students that I was helping. I was in a situation that wasn't real, and I owned up to it right in the middle of this meeting. I came up with a plan for professional development, and I figured out, I gotta get out of here. I can't do this anymore, so I returned to the classroom. And shortly after that, I discovered the work of Parker Palmer, and he talks about the importance of integrating identity of who you are and integrity, kind of aligning them so that one, it's like a hose, like a garden hose. You know, you ever turn on the garden hose in the middle of summer and you turn it on and nothing's coming out, you're thinking, what's going on here? So you find that kink. Well, when we align integrity and identity, that water can flow. And what I was not doing was I wasn't being true to myself. And I started realizing that my place was in the classroom. My place was to encourage, to empower, to wake up people. And that I wasn't able to do it in the position that I was in. I made that change. I made that change, and I started teaching full time. So let's talk about each. What is identity? You know, if you were asked yourself, who are you? You know, if you were to start off with the sentence, I am, and ask people to say, I am, and whatever comes to you, I am. After a while, we wouldn't have anything to say. Because how many of us really think about who you are? I believe that if you show up in the classroom or you show up anywhere in your life and you're not genuinely who you are, people will get it. You know, there's a saying, people don't care how much you know unless they know how much you care. And that became kind of the theme of how I began to operate, how I began to teach, how I began to be. Now, it's interesting about this whole identity thing. How do you discover it? And this is one of the questions I ask my students. What's your passion? And a lot of students go, I don't don't know. In fact, I even start off with an easier question. What do you want from this class, from your life, from school? And some students sit there in the classroom blank. They can't figure out, they never thought of it. What do they want? Well, your identity determines so much. And one of the ways to discover identity is do everything you can. Create experiences, as one of my friends would describe it. Jump in and try something you've never tried before. Go and read a magazine about something, if you're waiting for your dentist, read a magazine about fashion if you're an engineer. Or if you're a fashion designer, read a magazine on auto mechanics. But expand that and give yourself chances. And when something sparks, go after it. That's one way to discover it. Another way to discover that passion, to discover your identity, is to think back about, and in your lives, when were these hot buttons pushed? When did you get excited about stuff? When did you get animated? And you're so excited that people were like, whoa, what's going on? Because you are like almost an out-of-body experience talking about something you're thinking about doing or have done, or you know what I'm talking about, right? So discovering this passion comes in other ways. Another way is to take tests. And I really encourage you to take tests that are interest-based. John Holland, who developed the Holland Code and is one of the founders of career theories, talks about the importance of interests. That interest is the best predictor of career success, not ability. Can you imagine? When I was in school, I remember my high school counselor said, hey, the tests indicate you should be an engineer. 8 out of the 10 items on your list say engineering. So I followed his advice. I didn't know anything else. I went in there, and while my cohorts were totally enthralled and talking about certifications, talking about the future, talking about what they were doing, I was like, I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so. Fortunately, I didn't follow through. I got out. I got a degree in something that was more what I was about. So taking tests are another way. Reflecting back on those stepping stones, those key points in your life that you remember. They could be good or bad, but lessons were to be learned. Sometimes knowing what you don't want to do is as important as figuring out what you do want to do. So we talked about that. There's other ways of doing it. There's other ways. And one of the things that I've done is to be quiet, to be still, to start a regular practice, a spiritual practice of listening, of tuning in. I remember someone saying that prayer is asking, but visioning or meditating is listening. Is listening. Listening for that quiet, still voice within us that will reveal what we're supposed to be doing. It's another way to do this is to journal, is to keep, just by simply writing stuff down, the discoveries that can be made. In part of the class, I have my students journal, and they do what's called a reflection journal, where they actually read through all the things they've written through the semester to get an idea, have there been any commonalities? Have there been any trends or continuances, or what was revealed? These are all important ways to discover what it is, who you are. At 45, and this is what all of this happened, that dark night of the soul for me, I thought, how is this possible that I've spent all my life in doing this? But the biggest change for me was I just stopped following the rules of how I was supposed to do my job, and I did it to the best ability that I could. And I didn't care if there were 50 people waiting to talk to me. I took as long as I needed with every student. I took as long as I needed with every person. And of course, my supervisor wasn't happy, but at least I wasn't pissing anybody off. So that was a good thing. So what my message really is about that, which is identities, discovering yourself, asking yourself. Many wise individuals on the planet have said something along the lines of, the longest journey that we will take in our lives is the journey between our head and our heart, is connection, making that connection, that inner connection, is understanding. You know, another way you can tell is if you're on your game, if you're doing what you're supposed to do, is that you operate from a place of love, not fear. Let's think about that. You operate from a place of love and not fear. So much of human behavior, of activities, of what you've done, of what I've done, comes, I can stop for a moment and say, why did I do that? Was it from fear? Or was I coming from a place of love? The other thing to ask yourself if you're in your groove is, are you about how you're going to give versus what you're going to get? If you're in your passion, you can't help but give. It flows out of you. I don't know where it comes from, but it does. If you're not, your concern is a little different. And these are the ways. So going back to combining that identity with integrity is simple. That integrity part just says, be who that person is. Align the identity and integrity in your life, and all things will unfold. Namaste.